Hey crew, it is Saturday the 29th of June, and I wanted to make a quick video just to catch up on everything. I put up a video of Taryn and I singing River of Love at the Sheltering Branch Talent Show, which was really fun. But I figured I'd talk more broadly about camp and kind of what's been up. And I want to actually end, I was making notes here, and I forgot to write down this last thing. I want to end with the discussion of the Euros and VAR, because I know that's what you want to talk about. So anyway, camp. We had a great camp. I mean, we always do. It's just the people that make a difference, right? Super, just an amazing group of people, and there's people. So my camp was a little different than normal for me. Both the last 2 years when we've gone. Last year when we went, my mom got sick and I had to take her out of camp. She and my dad, so I missed basically 3 days of camp, and it's kind of 7 days, 6 nights with basically set up and take down the last 2 days. So it's really 5 days, 6 nights. Anyway, so that was last year. This year, because Isvren is getting up and running, there's ongoing work. They've finished all of the rendering work this last week during camp. At the same time, we have renters there. We're having the first time that the cleaner's going to get there. And so every day there was something that needed to be dealt with. And so I was, because there's no cell service at camp, and it's like a 45-minute drive to get to a place where you have cell service. Basically, you drive out, climb a Hartsock grade up to the top of the canyon wall, and then you can get cell service up there enough to get emails and communicate with people. So I drove out every day, unfortunately. So I didn't get the experience of being disconnected as much as I normally would. Although I didn't. All I did was I checked the scores of the Euros and the Copa America, and my emails and texts. So I didn't look at the news at all, which was good. Because of that, I got to hang out with. There were other people who needed to go out various times and do stuff, and Javad Renault was one of them. I spent a lot of time with Javad. I went with Chris Engel. I drove into Lewiston. He does a grocery run midweek, and I did that with him as well. So those are just really nice people, fun to hang out with, and good conversationalists. So that was kind of the highlight of camp for me. In addition, I was in charge of organizing the talent show. I also set up the PA system in the rec hall where we do all of our singing and stuff. So there's a little bit of stuff there with maintaining that, making sure everything's working. But that mainly was the first day. It takes, 2 hours to go in and set everything up and get it going. And then you got to tear it down the last day, and then we do the talent show, so I got to move it and set it up where around the fire bowl where we have talent show. But that's cool. And also, so for the talent show, it's basically anyone who wants to do something can do it. We limit the length of it. We had, I think, 18 different acts, and it was really good. I mean, Isaac did a parody song to Don't Stand So Close to Me, which he wrote, and he's done a series of those now. And actually, the Brightsprecher kids did a parody song to Radioactive, the song Radioactive, but they called it I Am Allergic instead of Radioactive. And I played guitar for both of them when they did their bits, and I'm going to see if I can find some video of it. I have audio recording, but I'm going to see if I can get some video so I can cut it together and put it up. That would be fun. Both of them were funny and super fun to do. So yeah, that was a lot of work. And Sarah actually at the camp, she is she does all the announcements and all. She's kind of the face of the committee. So she does announcements in the morning and evening, and she gets to play the heavy and tell everyone what to do. And everybody goes and talks to her about stuff. So she is constantly on during camp, and she loves it. But we also come back and she's exhausted. So speaking of which, we got up, Friday morning. So we arrive on Saturday, and we have and we set up Saturday afternoon and evening. People show up, and we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday full days, and then or Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday full days, and then Friday is the we just get up and clean up camp, and it's this, but it's all volunteer camp, so everybody has jobs, and everybody's working on the cleanup, and we have to be out of camp by 11 o'clock. And actually the ranger actually told Brad, who's the camp director. So he basically goes in with the ranger and inspects all the buildings and everything, and then at the end does it again to make sure that we've cleaned everything up. And the ranger told him that we're the only group he's had that's been out on time so far, which I guess is kind of to be expected. We've got a lot of experience. So anyway, we jump in the van to come home, and it's just like loaded with everything in the back, and we just kind of threw it in. And we stopped in Milton Freewater to get lunch. And often one of the little joys that we get out of the van is we sit in the van and eat lunch together on the way home. And I just love having little meals around the dinette in the van. It's nice. And I was going to turn on the AC and run it off the batteries, and there was no 120 volt power or 110 volt. I can never remember which it is. Anyway, I think it's 120. And so I thought, oh man, what's going on? And often if there's a GFI outlet right by the sink, and if that GFI is blown, the breaker in there is blown, none of that power in the 120 power in the van works. And so I thought, oh, the GFI is blown. And then I hit test, and it clicked, and I hit reset, and it wouldn't reset. And I thought, oh, maybe the outlet's gone bad. So we get back. I'll cut in the video here. Hey, Karoo. This is the spot where we have the GFI outlet in the camper van. You can see here we're looking at the camper van in here, and as you can see, the lights are all working. Our battery is at 99.9%, 12 volts, all good. But this GFI allows the 110 to function in the entire van. And so just as we were leaving camp, luckily it didn't happen at the beginning of camp, just as we were leaving camp, actually just when we got home from camp, the GFI wouldn't reset. So I have a new one. It's brown, not black, but I like to buy from the local shop, and they didn't have any black. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the new one and see if that fixes our problem. And there it is, all fixed. Of course, that's not the whole story, unfortunately, because you see over here, I didn't bother to check. Of course, we packed stuff in here. The breakers, one of the breakers had been switched off. I didn't notice it, so I put in the new GFI, and this was the new GFI, and it turns out this is a 15, does it say on it? It says 20 amp. Anyway, this one, I put it in and it just popped every time I turned everything on. Whereas this one, I put it back in the old one, it works. So I'm not sure what the deal is. Anyway, regardless, I'm an idiot for not remembering to check those breakers before I went and replaced the GFI. But everything's working now is all that matters, I guess. Another heartwarming tale of home repair. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So anyway, as you see here, what happened was that I replaced the outlet. I went and bought a new outlet, replaced it, put it in there, and nothing worked again. I went and looked, and there's breakers in another part of the van right next to where all the stuff was loaded, and they'd just been switched off in moving stuff around. And this has happened before, but I was just so tired and sleep deprived. And like I had this niggling in the back of my head that I should be looking for something else. But, I just wanted to get it fixed right away so it wasn't going to hang over me. And so I just didn't think to go check. And so, yeah, it was a stupid mistake by me. So I ended up taking apart this outlet and then putting back in the old outlet again afterwards, and just flipping the breakers, and then everything works. So that's good that everything works. Yeah, and I got some footage of me doing a repair type thing that was completely useless. So that's good. So the last thing I want to talk about is the Germany-Norway match in the Euros. And you and I have talked about this a little bit, but I watched the highlights of that match, and if you haven't watched the highlights, you could go watch them before I talk about this. But so Germany won the match 2-0, and they're undoubtedly the better team on paper, so it's not like a huge injustice. But Norway scored a fairly early goal, and VAR overturned it for offsides. And if you look at the offsides, it's, like the guy who made the pass was even with the defender, the last defender, and received the ball with his back to goal and passed it back to another player who then shot and scored. Now, when they did they do a 3D visualization where they have models of the bodies of everybody, and they draw a plane to show you if any part of the attacking player's body that could legally play the ball is past any part of the defender who could legally play the ball, and then you're offside. And literally an inch of his toe on his left foot was past that, and he's facing the other way, moving backwards. And I know we've talked about this before, but one of the big areas of research that was my professors at Penn State was spatial uncertainty, or confidence intervals. How precise can you be with any level of accuracy? And the reality is, they're acting like that is an actual precise measurement of whether or not it's offsides. The problem is that the guy kicking the ball, they have, with slow motion cameras, they've got, I don't know how many frames per second. I don't know if it's 120, if it's 240, I don't know what it is. The ball is on the foot of the guy kicking it for I don't know how many seconds, how many frames. And what they really need to do is they need to have a confidence interval. And the offside law is set up to counter if you have a significant advantage from being offsides. And so they should have, you can calculate, how far can a player move in, a certain number of frames, and that's your confidence interval. And if you're outside that confidence interval where you shouldn't be, you're offsides. If you're inside of it, you should be onsides, because it's too close to call. It's like you're essentially even. You can't be certain that player is actually offsides. And the absurdity of these stupid, really precise measurements just annoys me to no end, obviously. And I know I shouldn't get upset about this. And then this in the second half, Germany gets a penalty when the attack, German player sends in a cross. The defensive player's just running, his arms are not up unusually. He's not waving them around. And the ball flies by him and barely touches one of his hands. To the point where you can't tell the spin of the ball has changed. I'm not sure, I mean, it might have changed a little bit, but the direction, there's no way that impacted the play in any way. And they go back and like I don't think that the German player complained at all. And they go back and check it in VAR, and it turns out they have a chip in the ball now that detects any noise from it touching something, and so they're using that chip in the ball to determine that there was a handball. And it's just absurd. It's like, it ruins the game. It's like you're going and checking this stuff, and I'm just like, God, like, that's not what the rule's for. I just don't. It's like everyone is totally insane and has gone on this legalistic rabbit hole, and it drives me nuts. It's like, less of that. We need less of that. What you want to prevent a clear advantage. You want to prevent. There's a reason that handballs, are there to prevent you from using your hands to affect play, and if your hand affects play, and it's like people don't want to make judgments. They just want it, like, oh, I don't want the controversy of making a judgment. It just drives me crazy. Anyway, obviously I get way too worked up about this, and it's silly, but it just drives me nuts because the entire nature of that game was changed by those two calls. It's against the spirit of the rule. And at the same time, we talked about, in the Copa America where, the U.S. goalkeeper gets totally taken out. And as you said when we talked, the style of play between those two tournaments is just vastly different, where in the Americas, it's like a mugging taking place on every play. And, in Europe, it's this refined thing where people don't touch each other. Or, I don't know. It drives me nuts. Anyway, I'm going on 15 minutes. I'm going to stop. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Talk to you soon.